On today's episode, James Murphy, the CEO of Willmeng Construction, is joining us for a conversation on the ROI of creating a strong company culture, why culture and team building is so important to future success, and some great advice on how to attract and retain top talent. This is an episode you want to tune in for. James, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thankful to be here. Thanks for having me.
As the CEO of Willmeng Construction and the multiple different hats that you wear here in the local business community, I thought it would be helpful if we just started today's conversation focused on, your background and a little bit more about who Willmeng is. Would you mind sharing some?
Sure. So I now call Arizona home, moved into the state in 1990, a product of ASU and in particular the Del Webb School of Construction, where I sit on the Industry Advisory Council to this day. Joined Willmeng in the summer of 99, which I can't believe saying that, the summer of 99. Had a good run learning under Jack Willmeng. Became the president and owner of the firm January 1st of 06. And from there, the market sector development and the community support of Willmeng and in time, we've become more and more deliberate about supporting the community that's been so good to us. And so anyway, that's the foundation. Is Arizona's now home, and Arizona State University, and a bunch of good clients and a great community for a couple of decades now. So things have been great.
Good. Would you mind just sharing a little bit more about what kind of construction Willmeng does?
We're all about market diversity, and from medical clients like Banner to industrial, and including a whole bunch of clients and bigger account and initiatives like Amazon, the office space. I think the market at large would acknowledge that the price corridor has been really good to us. In Park Place, we're building for Trammell Crow right now up on Raintree. And then there are several, mission critical is a market that we're certainly committed to. The education space, Basis has been a great account for us, K through 12 at large. And anyway, our model is to identify the high performers in each market sector, and the more diversity, the better. In that, everybody knows the construction industry at large is cyclical, and we don't want a cyclical company. We don't want a Willmeng that's correcting. And so to do that, we need real diversity with the strongest of the best in each market sector. So that's as a model, it was all about diversity and all about falling in behind the best clients and seeing to it that we execute for them.
So a lot of our listeners, I know during quarantine and COVID, we've been home. We've done a lot of home improvement projects. However, we're not here to talk about construction or, because we do have a commercial contractor here working with us. We're not here to talk about that today. To your surprise, you may be interested in hearing a little bit more about James's commitment to the ROI of creating a strong company culture. We previously featured him on one of our panel discussions, and their organization stands out from the crowd and from the others in the construction industry because of what they've been able to build. So James, just from a high level, would you mind talking about your overall philosophy as it relates to company culture and your overall mindset within your business?
Yeah, and absolutely. Our openly, externally, we say a contractor that cares. Relative to our culture, a close-knit team with a whole bunch of people that are willing to do more than their share, both personally and professionally. The COVID, I can remember the COVID storm, for instance, blowing in, if you will, and it was a national problem that wasn't here until it was here, and everybody's battening down the hatches, and some from our VP of Finance in becoming school teacher and VP of Finance as kids are at home, and for us, it's been a heavy lift, no question about it, through COVID, reinforcing our culture through trying times. 100%, that's been our mindset, and I think it's what we've done. And to care for your staff, to care for your culture, means to really understand what people are going through, and it's really been humbling, is probably the right way to put it. Who's done what through COVID as people take on 4 and 5 roles? It seems like care for your parents, care for your kids, be school teacher, and get your day job done. It's been something to watch. So lot to be thankful for, and a lot of opportunity to care for staff and the team and the clients at maybe a different level.
Your team has been known for putting together some pretty unique or fun team building activities. Would you mind sharing some of the stuff that you did pre-COVID and how you've adapted and changed and, did some other unique events over the course of the last couple of months?
Sure, sure. So historically for us, mid-year retreat, we've hosted the company and spouses and kids and at Little America in Flagstaff, and historically it's been Friday evening through Sunday afternoon, and when we say host, I mean there's child care and there's a kids club area that by design is fun enough that the kids don't want to leave, and if the Willmeng employee and their spouse and they have young kids and they're actually going to have a weekend off and get to relax and enjoy the program. We need to avoid guilt, and if we're going to avoid guilt, the kids club, that literally we've had kids that were there all day Saturday, Friday night till 11 o'clock and all day Saturday, and it's Sunday at 3 and it's time to go, and the kids don't want to leave. And so anyway, it's fun in that regard. And what does our program involve across that weekend? A lot of fun, a lot of competition games between teams, and there's an opportunity to reinforce the culture, but probably more so, it's important to know the names of the spouses and the kids, and it's an opportunity to come together. Obviously, in light of COVID, we were unable to go to Flagstaff this year, but our mid-year did live on in another form. So anyway, that's kind of our cornerstone annual event among others. So.
Yeah, I think that one, a lot of organizations tend to host retreats or smaller get-togethers as they're planning out, their business plans and whatnot. But I think it's really cool how you invite the entire family to participate, because oftentimes, what happens at work goes home and what happens at work, vice versa, right? So I think it's really nice that you focus on the whole individual and, bringing that together. Now, you'd mentioned, this year looked a little bit different and that you weren't able to go up to Flagstaff this year. So I'm curious, what did your team decide to do?
So after a lot of debate, we had elected to go virtual, and we've got a really creative team that put in a lot of time and energy, and we want a mid-year that has the same effect. We don't get to go to Flagstaff, but we feel with the right creative mixture, we can put on an event that's on par, and we recreated it in kind of a COVID form. And there's a company update that's always a part of the mid-year, which we did do. There's meant to be a lot of levity and a lot of team building, and anyway, we ended up the field game competitions lived on in a pre-recorded video form, and watching people do what they did recorded, and the guy that didn't make a basket knows that his video recording of him not making a basket is coming up, and it kind of ended up being our own kind of funniest home videos competition in a virtual sense, and people rolled laughing. A lot of fun, and we didn't sit around and talk about COVID, and I think people need that. I think everybody's kind of done with seeing reporters with masks on and what's around the corner. It was, I think for most people, the number one thing that resonated up was it was just I think we started at 4 and we got done about 10:30 at night, and it was just a great mental reprieve that I think people really needed. So a lot of fun, a lot of competition, and it's amazing what people will do to win the $1,000 gift card or whatever was at stake, right?
So the $1 million question is, what will the future workplace look like? Will there be any lessons learned through this experience? Will we continue to adapt and change into 2021, or do you think it'll resume and go back to where it was?
Yeah, I've always been one the people pointing to new normal. That's not where my head is at, and maybe it's out of optimism, maybe it's out of ignorance, maybe it's out of a combination of the two. I don't know, but watching our staff, I mean, they're kind of people at large. I mean, tribal by nature, want to assemble by nature, want to hug and shake hands by nature. I personally, over time, don't see any of that going anywhere. It's just how quickly do we get back to the point that there's a football game in Tempe that we're all excited about, and we're going to stack on top of each other like we used to do. That'll come. In my opinion, it's your guess is as good as mine. I hope it's a late 21, late 22, and the thought of it being a 25 makes me cringe. But anyway, I believe at the end of the day, we'll be back to densities that are what was once normal. So it's my sense.
I think you individually provide some great inspiration to a lot of other individuals, especially in the construction and real estate industry, to grow up in the industry and to eventually become the CEO of a business. I think it takes a lot. And so I'm curious, for those that you could potentially look to mentor or just share some ideas and best practices, what would you share with them as far as how you've made it and how you've gotten to where you are today?
Ooh, that's a good one. Key relationships and learning under high performers that are good people. If you look at our I guess good fortune is probably a good way to put it. The community's really supported us at a high level for decades. There are a lot of phenomenal people that are behind that story, and so I don't know. I think the ability to look around and understand what a good person that is a high performer looks like, and the more of those relationships you can have, I mean, it's going to pull you up. I mean, that's exactly what happened with me and with us, and the more of those relationships you can maintain, the better. And I think the outcome is kind of imminent when you stack up enough strong relationships with high performers, I guess is the best way to put it. So.
I know Willmeng has a great commitment to professional training and development. You guys are members of A to Z BizLink, which we're so appreciative of. But curious, just for yourself, how do you continue to push yourself to become the best version of yourself as a leader? Are there any books that you recommend, or blogs, or conferences?
Yeah, so I'm locally. I'm a member of it's Arizona Growth Advisors. Rick Johnson, John Cosgrove. And it is kind of a peer group format that's constantly putting the next strategy in front of you. And I give them great credit that whether it be defining your culture. I mean, I can still distinctly remember 2011, 2012 going to a presentation on how to attract and retain millennials at large. I mean, I distinctly remember developing a strategy that we did employ, and it's gone extremely well. And so anyway, I feel like what does personal development look like for me? It's kind of that peer group forum that I really enjoy. Beyond that, from panel participation, anywhere you can have a seat at the table in any sort of thought leadership, to prepare to participate inevitably makes you better. Any opportunity to go teach, to prepare to teach, inevitably makes you better. And I've done a combination of all the above, and thankful for the opportunities that I've been afforded in that regard, for sure.
You mentioned attracting and retaining top talent. That's one thing. As the Phoenix Metro continues to grow and expand, every business is looking for opportunities and ways to differentiate themselves, and also finding ways to attract that top talent. So curious, just from a general business perspective, do you have advice for anybody, not necessarily like in construction, but financial services or professional services? Is there any advice that you would have there from your lessons learned?
Yeah, somebody's either you're recruiting them and they're not out looking, or maybe they're at a fork in the road and they're looking. How able are you to paint an accurate picture of why your firm should be their long-term home, and is the first challenge. And then from there, how well can you live up to it equals retention. And it's really a double-edged sword there. And even if, and then there are some firms, even if the firm is really, really, really appealing, how well are you able to put that information out there in an interview setting? Or even put that information out there in a way to attract the stable person that might not even be looking. And I feel like a lot of the best future candidates, they're healthy, they're happy, they're not looking, they don't know what they don't know, or all things that bubble up. Well, if you're trying to attract them, that's a difficult equation. They're not looking, they don't know what they don't know, and maybe they've been there for 15 years. And so what is your strategy to get in front of someone that's not looking, And then when you do that and someone makes a career decision to join your firm after, and they're leaving a place that's taking care of them through 15 years and now maybe 15 years, including 6 months of COVID, you better live up to what you sold. And what does that look like? And then if you're a growing company, that equation becomes more and more complex. And so anyway, attract them, sell them, and then care for them that you're living up to what you sold. I think people need to really focus on all of the above. So.
You've been actively involved in the Phoenix metropolitan area and helping, with new businesses coming into the Valley and existing businesses to continue to expand. I'm just curious, what trends are you seeing? What's happened so far this year, and what do you expect to happen over the next couple of years?
Yeah, the manufacturing and manufacturing facilities and through COVID, the U.S.'s ability at large to produce its own products and not get caught up. I absolutely, from aerospace to high-tech manufacturing, there's a wave of great activity that the greater Phoenix at large is going to benefit from for decades to come. And I think we're on the front end of it. I think 4 or 5, 6 years ago, or 6 years from now, the general population that's not a part of the building industry is really going to feel it. And I mean, an example, think of Intel and Chandler and the long-term implications of having Intel and Chandler and demographics and wage and the like. I think when you look across the Valley, there are likely to be several stories, maybe not on that scope and scale, although there is one on that scope and scale that I think people are aware of, but multiple great paying jobs with sophisticated industry leading companies. I think the Valley continues to have a great story, and the narrative's getting better and better and better. So it's a great place to be.
There's a lot of individuals that continue to not only vacation here, but they are moving here. I've seen the freeways are certainly getting busier, and cost of living is starting to go up because so many people are buying the houses here in Arizona, which I think is a positive in the long run for us. But for those individuals that are brand new to the Valley and they're trying to, get to know some new individuals and get their feet wet here in the business community, do you have any advice that you would offer them?
I mean, first of all, it's I open for business, and everybody in the community, for the most, not everybody, the vast majority of everybody here is from somewhere else, and I think welcome and open for business is generally a theme. That said, big city, small town. Phoenix operates like that, and definitely the more that you can reach out and establish yourself with kind of some of the older guard, you need to, and there are venues to do that you have to be deliberate about it. Whereas in other markets, and for whatever reason, like a Dallas comes to mind, I don't think the dynamics are quite the same. Greater Phoenix, there is a who's who, and that who's who has been doing really well for 2 or 3 decades, and they're a force, and they're either on your team or they're not. And so you kind of have to have a double barrel approach to get your name out in the generally welcoming business community, and then understand who's who, and somehow you need to play with them and not against them.
It's September. We're already entering Q4 of 2020. A lot of us are starting to think about 2021 and business planning. And so what's top of mind for you as you look forward to 2021?
I will say we're thankful for a focus that remains around recruiting and growth, and for thankful for I get the national construction bonding reports, and the good news that remains in the greater Phoenix area, that's not the storyline nationally. And so for us, to recruit from out of region, maybe in some of the market sectors that have been impacted more so than the greater Phoenix, that is our mindset. And, the great firms within Phoenix have been recruiting for a long time, and it's a pretty tough place to recruit, as most of the people are well taken care of and very stable. So anyway, for us, it's retention, it's growth, it's recruiting, and maybe pulling in some talent from out of the market that previously might have been more difficult to get.
Through the course of our conversation, we've gone back and touched on the concept of building your network, getting to know the right people, and how that's helped you to get to where you are today. I know you know almost everybody here in town, but there probably are a few individuals that you haven't met yet. So who can we help you to get in front of? Who would you like to get to know here in the business community?
Ooh, that is a good question. That is actually a great question. Can I? Yeah, how long do I have to answer this question? You know what? I mean, at this point, Greater Phoenix has been great to us, and great networks, and we should have great networks. We're at 40th Street and the 202. So I think the Tucson community at large, it's uncharted territory for us, and be it from the U of A to the Tucson at large. And so anyway, that market sector it's time for, I view state of Arizona as home, not just Greater Phoenix. We've got an office in Flagstaff. We're working right now in the Prescott Airport terminal. Tucson, it is a place that we need to invest some time and become a part of that community is probably the best way to put it. So
I think that'll be a great opportunity for you guys to expand down there. However, does that mean that you'll then become a U of A fan in that?
I knew you were, and then I used to, for a long time, I said we had one person from U of A, and we did have to part ways with that individual. I'm kidding. We've got some really strong Wildcats at this point, but I did not say that for the record. I remain on the Sun Devil side of the equation.
Hey, all good. James, as we'd like to wrap up today's conversation, is there any additional advice that you would like to offer those listening in our business community?
Yeah, from a business point of view, I hear a lot of discussions with owners and presidents and the like, and I feel like they're the get back to work, get people out of their home and into the office, and to what degree is there a loss of productivity with those working at home? And I feel like that's on the forefront of people's mind more than it should be. And I look at us, I mean, we've grown substantially. Our office staff for the most part has been at home. People are not only getting their work done, but they're getting their work done probably while sacrificing greatly in some way, shape, or form. And so anyway, I just feel like the emphasis needs to be more around employee health and support, and the production will be there. And the fact that it seems like the production concern is first, and the care for the employee might be a close second. I think we just all need to focus on keeping it the other way around, that you have no idea the backstory, what people are dealing with, and a lot of times they're not going to share it with you either. And just keep it on the forefront of the mind. If you have a healthy staff, the production is going to take care of itself. And so anyway, a lot of discussions about when do we get back, and how do we get back. And I think the focus needs to be on the health, and what's around the corner. Is there another bubble coming? Maybe there is. Talking about a bubble of COVID across November, December. But if you focus on organizational health, I don't think it'll ever let you down.
James, for those individuals that want to know a little bit more about you or the team at Willmeng, what's the best way for them to get in contact or learn a little bit more?
Yeah, our website, there's either the Iron Curtain website or there's the Open Kimono website. If someone spends 30 minutes on our website, they're gonna know a lot about Willmeng, and our contact information is there, and we'd love to be in contact if they're interested.
James, thanks so much for joining us for today's episode.
I enjoyed it. Thanks for including me. Always a pleasure.